Hey everybody, welcome to the TSR Poker YouTube. I'm here with Schwibbs today, and he's going to be helping me analyze and review my hand history from the Hot 50 that I won on the February 25th. And Schwibbs, how you doing?
Doing well. Thank you. I'm really excited for this. If you guys don't know me, I'm Schwibbs. I'm a coach for TSR, and I'm excited about Google's game. I think that he's improving a lot. I think he mentioned to me that this is one of his bigger buy-in wins, which I think kind of speaks to the work he's been putting in, and I think he's improving at a pretty fast rate. So I'm excited to go through these hands with him and see, maybe where we can improve a little bit more.
Oh, thanks so much, man. Yes, I forgot to mention this is my biggest buy-in win, so I felt really good about it. So we start off here, blind versus blind. We're still in the early stages of the tournament, 100, 200 blinds here, and so we face a limp, and I decide to raise that limp up here because I think this hand, it can flop well, but when it doesn't, you're kind of in a tough spot. So I wanted to just help prevent playing post flop, as well as having a pot when I do. So
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I think this part of the game for me is the most exciting, because it's just if you haven't studied it or like understand like the strategy that I like to implement, where I didn't get it myself. Obviously, I got it from somebody else, but it's one of those strategies where like if you don't know, you'll look at it and be like, "Whoa, that looks really crazy and wild." And it was eye-opening to me the first time I learned it. Was like, wow, this is how you build an edge. Basically, you figure out things that people don't even know yet. So I think the strategy I'll give you here will be super impactful for your win rate. Basically, the thought process I have here is that I ISO the small blind limp with a polarized range. And so part one of that polarized range is an under the gun range. So it might look like 17% of hands or something like that. So you ask yourself, would I raise this hand under the gun? Yes. Okay, then you raise. Then the next question is this hand an offsuit 2, 3, or 4? So like 7 deuce off, king 4 off, like 9, 3 off, like
so
those
so
really
the
offsuit
ultimate
trash
bottom
hands.
there, yeah, ultimate bottom range hands there. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So it's like really polarized. And the reason why it's very, very effective, like when people see me ISO 7 deuce off, they might be really confused. Like, why did he raise that hand? But it's just an opportunity cost game. So if I check those hands back pre-flop, what happens is on the flop, on average, we're going to face a bet. And we either hit the board with a pair or we didn't, because we're not going to have a straight draw or a flush draw. We're going to have like bottom pair with no draw. So we'll either have to fold on the flop or the turn or by the river. So it's like a really low subset of hands, like a low EV subset of hands. And so I like to raise those hands. And the reason why is because, well, you could win it pre-flop. There's one opportunity. Then if you don't win it pre-flop, they're probably going to call. And then if they call, they're probably going to check to you on the flop. And then you can bet, and they're probably going to way overfold relative to where they should, like relative to your bet size. So you'll get an overfold pre-flop and overfold on the flop. And then by turn and river, you're still in position, so you can still realize your equity better than if you were out of position. And so that's like the raising range, and then the checking range is really like suited hands and like middling hands. And because they all play well, they play pretty well post flop. So that's kind of where my strategy's at. And I think if you haven't heard that explanation before, it might be something really intriguing and interesting. It was for me, and I was like, wow, like it's just mind blowing that people have figured this out. But it's my favorite part of the game. So
Yeah, no, definitely a lot of money to be made here for sure. And the big blind obviously is, a spot that you'll be losing, when what what do they you lose like the most money from here. So to be able to get
yeah,
any kind of value here is great. So cool. All right, let's move
yeah. So
on.
with the Jack four suited, I probably would have just checked it back. But
Yeah, that probably is a better check back. Yep. Because it's kind of in the middle of the road hand. So we just decided to raise the limper here. I mean, it's kind of late position limp side, just kind of raise them a little bit more frequently. And we just take
yeah, I think that's okay. You could go a little smaller, like 3.5, but I think it's fine. And the only reason I say that is the stack depth is pretty short.
Yeah. Queen 9 here,
Yep, this is a good
bottom.
raise on the button.
Mm-hmm.
What would your betting range look like? And you could hit on value bets first. So like, what hands would you definitely bet for value here on the flop?
What kind of value hands would I bet on the flop here? Like if I had an 8 or if I had a 4, I might bet for value with the open-ended flush draw. But you mean like made value hands? Like if I had sets or something?
Yeah,
I have
maybe
sets.
like strong hands. Like what
I
would it
might bet
look
with
like
a.
here?
I might bet with a 7 here, a pair of 7s. I would bet with all my sets. I would bet with all my 2 pair, because I have both of those here. Check all my under pairs, and I would with 2 overs like these. Maybe if I had, I don't know. I think that's probably most of what I would bet for value. But go ahead.
Yeah, makes sense. I think here, the way that I think about this is whether you have pocket 8s or aces. Well, first let me take a step back. What you said about like sets and 2 pair and straights, like I would just bet all of it. I'm good with that. But if you think about pocket 8s through pocket aces here, they're all the same hand because this L-Town Brown guy shouldn't have any pocket pairs above pocket 8s. So basically, like when you have pocket 8s here, you shouldn't lose to pocket 9s or 10s. Like you shouldn't have them in the range.
Right.
And if he does, it's kind of like whatever. But I first identify that all the overpairs, they get value from the same region. They get value from one pair of hands that are worse, right? So like 7 or 6. However, pocket 8s and pocket 9s and 10s need way more protection than pocket aces.
Sure.
So I'll probably bet all of those, like 8s through jacks. I probably bet all of them.
Yep.
Probably even queens. And then I might occasionally check kings and aces on this board. Maybe.
Okay.
It doesn't feel great because it's already 3 to a straight. And you do want to protect. And the SPR is pretty short. So I might wind up betting all of them. But that's generally how I think about the value portion.
Okay.
And then the reason why that's so helpful is because then I think about the bluffs. And the way I structure bluffs is I want to start from the very bottom of my range. So here, like the worst 9, and I categorize it by like what hand do I have. So here it's like you have a 9, right? So between like 10-9 and ace-9, they're all pretty similar in the fact that you have a gut shot.
Yes.
But 10-9 is way worse than ace-9. So I'm going to bet 10-9 first, and then jack-9. And then queen-9 is kind of like in the middle, and then like I'd probably check king-9 and ace-9. That's kind of where I'm at with figuring out how to bluff here. So hopefully that helps and gives like a bit more structure. Just figuring out like where you're at in your range. Am I at the bottom? Am I in the middle? Or am I at the top? And then
so you would bet all your 9s.
So I wouldn't bet all my 9s.
Okay.
No. Like I would bet 10-9 for sure.
Right.
I would bet jack-9.
Right.
I might still bet queen-9, but once I get to king-9 and ace-9, I'd probably just check.
Yeah.
And this isn't the type of a board that I'm going to attack a ton on because the small blind flat range has decent interaction. It's a little low for the small blind flat range, but I don't think I'm going to get some like massive overfolds here. So I will be pretty careful with how much I bluff. I don't want to just bluff 100 here. I don't think that's going to be very good.
I agree.
So that is why I want to be mindful about, how I check. I don't want to just bet all of my 8s and all of my 9s and all of my jack 10 and all of my queen jack. Like I definitely want to be like structured and thinking like, okay, bottom of range, I will bet, middle of range to top of the range, I'll probably check.
Yeah, I think I can bet this jack here when he checks the turn as well. I think I can bet that jack. I think it's probably a miss there. And then I just stab this river here just to try to take it down. We get called and he sort of heroed us here with this ace high, but
I would just say this is a really efficient bluff. And the reason for that is one, you have outs to a jack if he happens to have one. You have outs, which is really good. You have, the overcard and the gut shot.
Right.
And then 2, you're pretty much at the stone bottom of your range.
Yes.
At least you should be, because if you had worse hands on the flop, you probably should have bet them. So like this pretty quickly becomes like the best hand on the turn that I would bet with, and I would bet probably like 3/4 pot, and then depending on what the river is, like I'd probably be pretty aggressive and shove quite a bit of rivers. And the reason I would go 2 streets here is because there are an awful lot of hands that can call you on the turn.
Yep.
That will fold the river. There's just so many. There's, 8-6, 9-6, 8-7, 8-5, like 7-4, 6-4, 5-4, ace-4, ace-8. Like there's just endless amounts of pairs and straight draws and stuff
Yep.
and flush draws that will definitely call the turn, and then on brick rivers will fold.
So then I would bet this river again for 3/4 pot.
Yeah, I would if you bet 3/4 on the turn, I would go all in, which
Okay.
would be about 3/4 on the river.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think, yeah.
And not to be too results oriented, but with the hand he had ace-4. Probably would have called the turn, probably would have folded the river. Now,
Yep.
I don't want to be too results oriented,
No, yeah.
but that kind of speaks to my point.
Yeah. Yep. Two other people. I didn't want to put the squeeze on here with two other people in the hand.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I wouldn't squeeze here either with this hand.
We flop pretty well.
Yeah, I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't do anything other than just call on the flop.
Yep.
I don't think raising is going to be super great. I don't know if I would fold the turn though.
Oh.
Because you just have too many outs and you're in position. Now, if I was out of position, I'd definitely fold.
Okay.
But I think you might just have too many outs here, and the fact that you're in position, you can take it away on the river if they hand you the keys to the pot. So
yeah,
I'd be kind of sticky here. With this particular hand, doesn't mean like I would just be, putting money in with a bunch of really weak holdings, but having the open ender and being in position, I think you could still call versus half pot.
Okay. I don't think we're getting the odds though to call with half pot, are we?
See, so your odds here, it says 25%, right?
Yeah.
And then so you have 8 outs. So you're not getting the immediate odds, but I think being in position, maybe you can make a read that says like this player only has strong hands. I don't know how comfortable I would be with that, but they did lead out into like a 3-way pot on the flop and then bet on the turn. So maybe if you wanted to make that assumption, I'd be relatively okay with it.
Okay.
But I would just be careful for how far you take that. I wouldn't make that assumption all the time in all scenarios. But maybe in that exact scenario, you are probably right. And I think like you pointing that out to me is pretty helpful, and I think you're probably right.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously standard here. Here we get the classic. The classic min 3-bet here.
They're funny to deal with, but yeah.
I'm scared.
I just put it in always.
What'd you say?
I just put it in here always.
Yeah. I probably should have.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best bet. We do take down though versus bomber Trob. So I didn't really want to fold there.
Yeah, I think that's fine. The bet sizes were just too small. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I'm always that min 3-bet can sometimes it's like just the nuts, and then sometimes they show up with something weird. But I find it more often than not it's just kings and aces. At least at the stakes I normally play. Now this isn't the stakes I normally play, so maybe I should have adjusted and just rejammed and been fine.
Yeah, from what I see on Stars PA, I wouldn't go so far to say that. Now, if I saw it a couple times from someone over again and like I had the notes on them, then I would trust it. But in general, against the population there, I'm not going to assume that it's just nutted. Now, it might be sometimes, but I think in general, it can be pretty chaotic. Like I don't think that it's just kings plus. But that's where I'm at. So.
All right. I think we can only.
Oh yeah, what do you do here? This is interesting. I'm curious about this one.
Would you 3-bet here with something this strong?
No, I always flat this hand. I would always flat kings too at this stack depth.
Really?
Yeah, always.
Wow.
The good thing too about it is if you flat, there are so many short stacks behind that can rejam. And plus when you have kings and aces, you don't need protection, and the SPR is going to be so short. So like basically sub 30 big blinds, I do a lot less 3-betting with aces than most people. I do quite a bit of flatting. And it really helps in a lot of ways. It helps dealing with squeezes. It helps dealing with post-flop aggression because you still have really strong hands. So it's something I really like. And like with this hand, you just don't need protection, right? There's no flop that's going to come. Now there are some flops that might kill your action, or like password is taco might brick if he happens to have ace-king. But in general, I think flatting here is going to be really effective.
Interesting. Well, see, the only thing I worry about is with so many people coming along in the pot, that's nice, and they get a good price, so there's going to be more, it's going to be a juicier pot. on the flop, but I lose a lot of equity when I have so many more people in the pot. I mean, yes, I do have the best hand, and we just always want to get it in, but
So to that point specifically, I would say, yeah, the risk kind of goes up, but so does the reward, um, where you can win bigger pots. So yeah, your overall equity and the pot might go down, which means you lose a little bit more. The payout is going to be bigger too. And then where I was kind of thinking too is if you jam here or three bet, what do you think the players behind do with something like, threes through eights, hands like king, queen, king, jack, suited or offsuit, or like, ace 10.
yeah.
Like all those hands, I feel like they're all just going to fold. And if you just flat, they're all going to jam. And like, I think that you might be surprised with
Hmm.
how much extra value you can squeeze out of those hands.
Wow. I
Right? Like if
it.
you jam here, like Perry Sunt is going to fold sevens. Right? Like I don't
Yeah.
think he's going to call off necessarily. So that's why I do like quite a bit of flatting here. Now, if we're
Wow.
deeper, if we're over 30 bigs, you're not going to see me flat aces. That risk reward ratio is just not worth it. But when you're so short,
Yeah, no, that's very cool. I like that. When you're short. Like under 20 or under 30 or what?
it'll take anytime under 30. Like you'll
Okay.
see me flat aces with like, 26 bigs on the button. Like I'll do it all the time. And I do think it's quite effective.
That's cool. All right, very neat, very interesting. All right, another interesting
Yeah, it's
hand here.
good. I would always put it in here. That's
Yeah,
good.
obviously. Pretty straightforward, I think. Flat here in position, I think is okay.
Yeah, I think the flat pre is okay. It does get tough when it's this short, but I still think it's okay. On the flop, I might bet this hand because in general, people are pretty weak when they check. Some people are getting better about that, but I think in general here against your average person in this field, I think you can just win the pot way too much on the flop with the small bet.
Yeah.
And then also like I would be more inclined to check ace 10 or ace 9 if I have those hands and then bet ace 3. Just kind of like doing the reverse hierarchical thing that we talked about, like bet from the bottom, right? And then check the higher up versions of the same hand.
Okay.
And basically the reason for that is like when you have ace 3, you could get this player to fold ace 8. And then when you have ace 10, you don't really want them to fold ace 8. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. What sizing would you use here? Small?
I'm always go small sizings. You don't need to bet big.
So
If you have the nuts here, like if you have a king, you can just get the stack in. The SPR is too short. Like even if you happen to somehow have a really weak king, like the money just goes in. So you don't need to bet really big, and then also all of your value hands don't need any protection at all.
okay.
Like if you have a king, like you're gonna have the best hand by the river almost always.
This is a little awkward because of the stack sizes here and two callers here. I don't remember what I did. Thinking about this now, I kind of want to call, but I kind of feel like it's going to be extremely awkward if I call and don't nail it, just because of this hand. And thinking about it now, I don't want to 3-bet here, because we're always going to get jammed on by Taco probably, or Banjitar, and we can't really defend a jam. So I don't. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so my thoughts are, first of all, calling I think is probably the worst option, kind of to what you said. But the problem is you're going to be, even if it gets post flop with just you three, you're going to be in a three-way pot with an offsuit hand. Although you are in position, which helps, it's still a three-way pot with an offsuit hand that's tough to play on most boards. But even if you call here, there are stacks behind that will jam. And even though some of them are extraordinarily short, the other players will probably rejam. So like you're just not going to realize your equity much if you call here at all.
That's what I did. That's what I felt.
Yeah, and then as far as like 3-betting goes, I probably just wouldn't do it.
So you just
I don't know what password is Taco is flatting here. Like I'm never really gonna know that. It could be like aces and kings, maybe. But it really shouldn't be like queens through eights or whatever, or like strong aces. So basically what I'm trying to say is like I'm not really concerned about his range too much, but I am kind of concerned about the under the gun range and like where our hand ranks against that. And I just don't think this hand is like good enough I
Yeah.
just wouldn't bother like 3-bet bluffing here with these stacks, to be honest.
I don't know where we're at right now, so we just open
All good.
here. Standard. I think I probably should have bet that queen. Like not, but that's not how. Like I don't know. That's not how
Yeah,
you
I
should be
would not
thinking
think
about it.
about
Yeah, yeah.
your betting strategy is in terms of like what the card is, the top card or
Okay,
something like that. On this board here, the way I think about this is all my betting, all my C betting will be a small size because of
okay,
the SPR.
okay,
And then this board's really disconnected and we have all the strength here and they don't really. So I would probably bet close to range here for a
okay,
small size.
okay.
That'll be like my pretty go-to answer. And then like where does this hand fit? It benefits a lot from betting because you just get so much protection from like 7-8 offsuit. Like we'll just fold, which is really good for you with this exact hand.
Right.
Um, and there's like a lot of hands like that hand where you get to protect against.
So with
Now, if
this
I
flop,
bet and they jam, I would be really uncomfortable and really unhappy about it,
yeah,
and
that's the
probably
other
just
thing.
fold.
Like we're so short, effectively here, that doesn't it make a bet kind of tough when you get jammed on? I mean, you got to fold, but
Yeah, that would be the most annoying part, but you also still do have like if I happen to have a four, which I guess it would only really be ace four. I don't think I would have. Yeah, I wouldn't have 5-4, so it'd
yeah,
only be ace four, and then like you still have fives, sixes, sevens, eights, nines, tens, jacks, and all the queen X and kings and aces. Like
yes,
you have all those hands to call a jam with. And like ace five, you might even be a better call than pocket threes there because you at least have outs versus what they would be jamming. Yeah, so for me here, he's jamming, Big Slick's jamming about 12 and a half bigs. My call range here, this is kind of close to the bottom. Like I don't think I would be calling fives, but I think the calls will start to come in around like sevens. Like
okay,
and I think eights is like
yeah.
definitely in there. Now if it's like a money bubble, maybe that's why I would definitely fold. I don't know about definitely, but if we're on the stone bubble, like yeah, I'd probably fold eights. If we're like in kind of like chippy V territory, I would just never fold eights there. This is fine. I don't think this is like bad or anything. So I would not do this. Kind of speaking to our point before with aces, like
Hmm.
I would either min raise or limp here.
Okay,
Mostly min raise, just looking at the stacks behind like the big ones and stuff. Um, but when you have 15 bigs, like if you just jam, I just don't think you get as much value as if you just min raise. And you just like don't really need protection, kind of what I was saying before. So it's kind of similar to what
would
we already
you
spoke about. So we can keep going.
would you jam eights here?
Yeah, yeah, like those hands that need way more protection, I
But
would definitely jam in 15 bigs with something
so
like I don't know,
if you're gonna
sixes, sevens, eights, like ace jack off, king queen off, like stuff like that. I think makes more sense.
if you
Um,
if you're gonna min raise your
Whereas with this,
aces, are you? What else are you gonna min raise?
I mean, quite a lot of strong hands. Like I would even be min raising like jacks and tens here for
Okay.
sure,
Okay.
and
So
like
it's
a
on.
lot
You
of
would
suited
only min
hands.
raise with strength here.
Sorry, what'd you say? I
You would
didn't hear
only
that.
min raise with strength here.
I definitely have a min raise fold range. Like there
Okay.
might be some particular hands where I don't want to jam. So like one that comes to mind is like king jack off. Like if
Okay.
you jam, I don't think it's going to be very good. It's pretty close. It might not even be close, honestly. So that's a hand that like I might want to play because it has particularly good blockers, but I don't want to just jam. So like I'll min raise fold that type of a hand. All right, so what happened here? You raised and he flatted?
Yes.
Yeah, this
Yep.
check is really good on this flop. I like it a lot.
Yep. Pretty standard
The
here,
check
right?
raise is fine
Okay.
because the SPR is so short. I don't think a jam is awful. Nice hand.
I think this open is fine,
Um,
and
I might not. I probably wouldn't open this. I think you're just too early position,
okay.
and my bottom would probably be ace 10 off.
Okay.
And then what happened on the river? It's annoying.
Yeah.
I don't think folding's too bad, but it is quite annoying. Yep, run it. Nice.
Let's see what happens here. What do you think about this raise?
I think it's quite good. I mean, there are definitely really good arguments for just calling,
Yeah.
but I think both are fine.
Okay.
And the reason is like you still need quite a bit of protection on the two-tone, and then a five or a deuce makes it straight. So I don't think raising's terrible, but I think
I
calling is also
called
good.
by a lot worse there, is my thought.
Wait, what happened with that king three off? Wait, what's going on? I'm might be missing these. Oh yeah, I would definitely advise against this unless it's a bubble.
I think we're getting
Even if
closer
it's
to the bubble here. I don't really open 3x unless we're closing on the bubble. And then here we do get called, sadly, and our jig is
Yeah. Those offsuit kings, I'd probably just let go.
But this is fun. So you get a limp here. What would you do?
I have one answer here. What's yours?
You have one answer? I have one answer too.
With the hand.
I have one answer too, right?
Yeah. That's my answer. Yeah.
It's pretty sad though. I don't know what I was doing here. See, this is another hand. So after that hand, I think I was kind of tilted. After I lost with the sixes, I think this overcall here is a problem. I think a jam is way better or fold, but I think the call is like the worst thing I could do here, and I think my mindset was not right at all here. I don't like this call. I went back, I rewatched it. I didn't like it. I still don't like it. What would you?
It's all good.
What would you prefer here, a jam or just a fold?
It would depend on where we're at in the tournament, not knowing, and if it was like closer to chippy V, then I'd jam. If there was some sort of bubble we were on, like final table bubble, then I'd probably just fold. But I agree with everything you said. I think it makes a lot of sense. That flatting there is going to be pretty hard to pull off.
Yeah.
Yep, I like it. Don't fold.
Oh.
Yeah, I wouldn't fold here. It's quite annoying.
Yeah.
It is really, really annoying. But I just wouldn't. Wait, what happened with the 10-9? Can we go back on the button? I'm just curious.
Fold.
How deep are we?
Not. We're not deep.
Yeah, we're not deep, obviously. Obviously, the answer here is going to be jam or fold with the whole range.
I can look it up.
This is close.
I can look it up.
Yeah. Yes, it's probably, it might be close. I might be wrong. It might be like not even close.
I think it's close.
But yeah, folding I don't think is bad either. I think it's okay.